Hello and thanks for joining us. We're starting with the reopening of Paris's most famous and tallest monument. The Eiffel Tower has been closed for 3 months because of France's coronavirus lockdown. The landmark will emerge from its longest closure since World War II, with limited visitor numbers at first and face masks mandatory for all over the age of 11. The monument, completed in 1889, has about 7 million visitors every year, about 3/4 of them from abroad.
La tour va réouvrir d'abord uniquement par l'escalier et puis ensuite, petit à petit, en fait progressivement, de manière assez prudentielle, on va réouvrir avec les ascenseurs.
Moi j'ai 2 mots, prudence et progressivité. C'est comme ça qu'il faut travailler. Prudence, ça veut dire on rassure, on met en place toutes les dispositions qu'il faut. Et progressivité, c'est qu'on doit viser un retour à la normale. Et ce retour à la normale, pour moi, c'est fin juillet.
The tourism industry in France has taken a hard hit under lockdown, with hotels, restaurants, museums and theatres closed. These included some of Paris's most famous landmarks, such as the Louvre, which will reopen on the 6th of July, and the Palace of Versailles, which opened at the start of June. The Musée d'Orsay reopened this Tuesday. It's internationally renowned for its rich collection of Impressionist art, attracting in normal times more than 3 million visitors a year. Chris Moore reports.
A queue but no crowd at the Musée d'Orsay. Open for the first time in more than 3 months, it's bookings only to get in, admissions limited to 5,000 a day.
I'm here to enjoy the first day back.
Inside, strict health and hygiene measures are in place. Masks are obligatory, some galleries remain closed, but those who've made it are glad the wait is over.
It was a really hard 3 months shut up like that. We could visit places, but only on the internet, and that's not the same experience. So now I'm reconnecting with what makes Paris a special city.
There's not many people, so it's a great time to see an exhibition.
We decided to come straight here.
So why did you choose today?
We wanted to get here on the first day, to support French museums opening up again after COVID.
Well, management here say they don't know yet exactly how much lockdown costs, but it's in the tens of millions of euros. Normally, 60% of visitors here come from overseas, but for now they're counting on a more local clientele.
There will never be anything better than being in front of an original Van Gogh. We're taking a bet that a rich programme of exhibitions and events will get local custom coming back. It's what people in the Paris area want, and we have plenty of exciting events lined up.
Top of the bill right now is an exhibition of the works of 19th century French painter and Anglophile James Tissot. Everything may have been rescheduled because of the lockdown, but nothing's been cancelled.
We contacted all the institutions and private collections who lend to us, Chauveau, Tissot and Ikiriko, after the summer holidays at the Orangerie. We asked them to change the dates and none of them refused. There's a lot of international solidarity among museums and collectors right now.
Well, French cultural life returning bit by bit. Cinemas reopened their doors on Monday. A series of reopenings planned over the summer. The next major one here in Paris, the Louvre Museum, on July the 6th.
The Villa Majorelle in Nancy has opened its doors to the public following the coronavirus epidemic, which hit that part of the east of France particularly hard. The listed building is best known for its exquisite Art Nouveau interiors and has just undergone a complete makeover. Olivia Salazar-Winspear takes a look inside the museum.
The fluid lines, curves and intricate glasswork of the Art Nouveau style here in the centre of Nancy. The Villa Majorelle was designed and built by architect Henri Sauvage in 1901 after a commission from artist Louis Majorelle. Inside, the decor pays tribute to the natural themes that characterise the era.
On a le sentiment de quelque chose de très doux, de très naturel. Là, on a l'impression d'être dans un joyau.
Les couleurs sont assez sobres, par contre les motifs sont beaucoup plus marqués, il y a des choses très colorées.
Je suis impressionnée par toutes ces formes arrondies et ce mélange de toutes les matières.
Stained glass, exotic hardwoods and mother-of-pearl inlay, beautifully executed details that complement the work of cabinet maker and joiner Louis Majorelle. The staircase is a prime example.
C'est vraiment un élément fort de l'architecture de la villa. Elle est en avancée sur la façade de la maison et elle est aussi extrêmement lumineuse par les vitraux et les verrières.
A trick of the light which draws the eye outside to better contemplate the natural landscape. Every room in the house uses this natural resource to great effect.
L'imposante cheminée avec le décor d'épis de blé que vous voyez dans la partie haute. Le salon, lui, c'est le thème de la pomme de pin qui a été choisi pour décorer ce salon.
When the villa was completed at the turn of the century, the Majorelles had no neighbours and the property sat in 1 hectare of parkland. When Louis died in 1926, the building was sold to the French state. As for the furniture, many pieces stayed in the family, and Majorelle's grandson grew up surrounded by some iconic objects.
Ça me fait plaisir de partager l'ambiance dans laquelle j'ai vécu, sans m'en rendre compte, parce que quand on a 10 ans, on ne sait pas qu'on vit dans un musée. Et pourtant, aujourd'hui, tous les meubles que je rencontre ici, je les ai croisés et j'en ai chez moi.
Recreating the interiors, however, was a significant challenge for the museum.
Nous n'avions pas d'archives pour cette pièce, nous avions seulement 2 photographies provenant d'albums de famille. En revanche, pour le reste, il a fallu faire des compromis pour essayer de s'approcher au plus près de l'esprit d'un lieu, tout en n'en connaissant pas tous les détails originaux.
Renovations here are ongoing, with many rooms still to be restored, including the artist's studio on the top floor with its specially designed skylight.
The reviews are in and critics have declared Bob Dylan's new album his best in years. Rough and Rowdy Ways is his 39th record. As usual, the singer and Nobel Literature Prize laureate is keeping a low profile, never losing his signature poetic style. Catherine Cadet-Clifford brings us more.
After 8 years of absence, he's back with a trailer instead of a video to mark the release of his new album. Not one to ride on his reputation, Bob Dylan continues to surprise his fans. Dylan's a legend in spite of himself, an artist who has at times suffered from being misunderstood. His music takes the form of disillusioned poetry, poetry recognised with the highest merits possible. It's safe to say someone has reached legend status when their childhood home has become a pilgrimage, with their name engraved on the manhole covers, and when they've contributed so many hits to musical history.
Les chansons de Bob Dylan, elles ont une longévité incroyable. C'est un artiste qui connaît tous les chanteurs folk depuis le XVIIIe siècle.
But being a legend doesn't necessarily mean being understood. Dubbed the voice of his generation in the 60s, Dylan has always refused to identify with this role. And certain fans felt cheated when he swapped his acoustic guitar for an electric one.
Pour moi, oui, c'est un écrivain. Et ce qui est rock, c'est que malgré une voix qui n'était pas celle de Caruso, ni celle de Mick Jagger, ni celle de Paul McCartney, il a réussi.
A poet, even in his rare interviews, he described his latest songs to the New York Times, saying, "They kind of write themselves and count on me to sing them." Or, "The song is like a painting. You can't see it all at once if you're standing too close." His appearances at ceremonies are as rare as his interviews. Receiving the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2016,
It's awarded to Bob Dylan.
it took the singer several months to accept the prize. Some would say he deserves a prize for modesty. At 79 years old, Dylan's not finished writing just yet. The global pandemic, or racism in the United States, could be at the heart of his next album.
Barcelona's Liceo Opera House has reopened and performed its first concert since the coronavirus lockdown to an audience that didn't have to worry about social distancing. Instead of people, the string quartet played Puccini's Chrysanthemums for more than 2,000 plants, one for each seat in the theatre. The concert was also live streamed for humans to watch. We're going to leave you with that. Remember our website, we're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Haile Selassie, the last emperor of Ethiopia, considered as the Black Messiah by the Rastafari, who died in 1975, has left a deep impression on his country.
Les relations internationales et relations africaines sous la direction de l'empereur, c'était vraiment remarquable.
If the Negus was the inspiration behind the African Union, which since his reign has been based in Addis Ababa and which regularly pays homage to him, he has also left a darker legacy. Between his supporters and those who fear the return of an autocratic regime, Haile Selassie's legacy remains divisive. Don't miss the Negus Empire Revisited on France 24 and France24.com.